Welcome to the Hen House Podcast, where mothers rise together in authentic conversation and sacred connection. With your hosts, Chantal Breanne and Andrea Sjoeberg. It's time to jump into the Hen House.
Welcome back, everyone. It is super exciting, and we are about to jump into the Hen House with Dr. Caitlin Reimer. And super exciting today, all three of us on the call are Canadian, and ironically, all from the Winnipeg, Manitoba area, though technically I'm Steinbach. But so super exciting. So Caitlin, thank you for being here. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here with my Winnipeg girls.
Right? Yeah. So I've seen some of the posts that you've had on Instagram kind of about how really having a baby has changed how you look at your career and how you want to do life and do career. And I just have found it a really unique perspective and really inspiring. And so I'm hoping that we can talk about that today.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that. I feel like actually another Winnipeg girl who also is a chiropractor, went to school with us in the Georgia area. She and I really started connecting through my pregnancy more, and talking about how many unbelievable, fantastic women role models there are in the chiropractic realm who really emphasize that you can do it all. You can have the high volume practice and see all the people and change all the lives and be the super mom and, have dinner on the table at 5 o'clock, it seems like, and just do all the things. And how incredibly overwhelming and how much pressure there is surrounding that as a new mom, and how few people there are, it seems, who are talking about that while you can have that, you don't have to have that. And how if what sets your soul on fire, if what you love is being a present mom, it's okay to step away from your practice for a bit, and it's okay to be a full-time mom and to not have the 6 or the 7-figure practice and to not do all the things. And it's amazing to me how few people are saying, hey mom, if you want to just be mom, that is more than enough. Like,
Yeah.
you are more than enough if you are showing up every single day for your child and for no one else.
Right. And still changing the world, without a
100%.
doubt.
Right? Like, if our children are not the future, then I don't know what is. So by showing up for her every single day and helping her be, she is on the floor. I keep looking at her. She's got like one foot on a book right now and she's doing the splits. So don't mind me still being a mom while in the hen house. It's incredible to me how the way we show up for them now, especially at the beginning, shapes who they're going to be as they grow and develop. And so I was actually literally laying in bed this morning watching her sleep, which I used to think was such a weird thing. And now I totally get why people just watch their baby sleep. And it was just so clear to me that, I am a chiropractor. I have an online business in the water world. And I hear all of these mentors all the time talking about what are you willing to sacrifice? And I'm laying in bed watching her sleep thinking, yeah, I could use this time to read a business book or to make a few pieces of content or to film that reel or to get a load of laundry in or whatever it is. And I'm not willing to sacrifice being the first thing she sees when she wakes up right now. I'm not, because when I watch her go through her little, like, everything in her body tightens and she starts rolling and squirming and her eyes kind of open and then they close and then she looks for the boob and then she has some milk and then she comes off the boob and then her eyes like fully open and she sees mom and she's just so incredibly excited that mom's there. I'm not willing to not let her have that right now. Like, what? She's gonna open her eyes and see nobody? No, thank you. So yeah, the content's not made and the laundry's not done and my house is a disaster. And my child sees my face every single morning when she wakes up. And that's what matters to me right now.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that. It's amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's funny because it's so underestimated how important that is in society. Because I've had that same perspective and the same thought, where at times I have made that my priority, but then I've kind of second guessed it as though like you don't get the immediate reward. Not that you should need a reward, but in society, it's not rewarded the same way, say, if you were to prioritize your career or to be doing all the things. It's kind of like you're doing it for yourself and for your child, but you're really the only person that knows.
Right. And like, I don't have a psychology background. Obviously, I'm a chiropractor. And I read enough things that talk about attachment styles and the importance of a secure attachment. And I think to myself, okay, all of these moments now where she is learning that every time I need mom, mom is there, that is developing a very secure attachment style so that, as she grows and gets older and has more independence, she'll have the confidence to be able to do things on her own, but to know that if and when I need mom or dad, they're always there. And I think that that's really undervalued, how important that is to instill right from the beginning, how those types of development start from day one. I think a lot of people talk about like, oh, I'll do all these things while they're really little because they won't remember me not being there anyway. But how are you programming their development or affecting their neurodevelopment if you're not there? And those are things I wonder about. And I think you're totally right, Chantal. People don't have the same, they don't give you the same appreciation for showing up as a mom as they do often for the person who is doing it all. And
Right.
so it's interesting. You have to find that for yourself. And I mean, I wouldn't want anything more than to watch her all day long. I think she's really
It is really interesting though. So I'm curious because within chiropractic, it's such a like there's a lot of pressure to keep being a chiropractor because it's like, well, you're a chiropractor, you're changing the world, you're healing lives. Like if you're not seeing this many people every week, you're not helping. And so I'm just curious how that went for you when you kind of stepped back from it, because I know when I stepped back while I was pregnant, and that was a really easy decision. It was kind of like I just had this intuition, like, you get to pick one or the other right now. You don't get both. And I'm like, done, I'm leaving. Selling my practice, I'm out.
very straight.
Like easiest decision ever. But I'm curious because I do feel like there's a lot of pressure, like if you don't want to still be a chiropractor, or like probably true of any helping profession,
Mhm.
but it's like, wow, you're like, like there's a lot of pressure to be like, no, you have to stay in it. You have to do it because this is so important. And I'm going, yes. And like this baby that's growing up is so important too. And it's very interesting how it's interesting. Like I have felt the pressure of it and just said, okay, like you all get your opinions and I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
And I do at some point want to go back at least a little bit, but it's not going to look like it did before.
Yeah. I was in a different practice than the one I'm in right now when I found out I was pregnant. And without going into a lot of details there, I left that office and I found a new space to be in. And on the first meeting with the man who owns the practice, we went for breakfast and I just kind of laid it all on the line. I said, I'm very early in our pregnancy. I don't even know if I should really be sharing that with anyone yet, but I want to be transparent because I don't know what that's going to look like. And I don't know when my body's going to decide, hey, like we can't keep doing this. We got to step back for a while now. And once my baby comes, I don't know if I'm ever going to want to come back to practice. I don't know if I'm going to want to take a year off. I know that's fairly standard in Canada right now, a year or 18 months. If I'm going to want to come back soon, I don't know. Like there are just so many unknowns surrounding this. And like God gave me a miracle in this practice because his response was, your priority is making the best decisions for you and your family. I would love to have you in the practice. I would love you to be there for whatever capacity you have to be there. And once you have your baby, the only person you're responsible to with your decisions or accountable to for your decisions is your baby and your family. So I'm going in knowing that you might never come back or you might come back. And there's no, you're not hurting me either way. And I almost cried. Like,
Wow.
to have that
Yeah.
level of support. He also was very open to, if and when I was ready to return, that could look like whatever I wanted it to look like. And so I did go back at 4.5 months. I'm only in the office 6 hours a week. It's 3 2-hour shifts. I'm thinking about adding maybe one more 2-hour shift in the next little while here. But I bring my baby with me to work. And so we have adjusting days, and he was totally open to me converting one of the bays into like a little nursery area. We have a pack and play in there, and we have baby toys, and we have like a foam mat on the floor. And for a period of time, we had a baby swing in there because she would sleep in it while I was adjusting. All of the staff in the office are so incredibly supportive, and like anytime she's upset, they will pick her up and hold her and bounce her and love on her. The people I see are so understanding. And I think that part of that comes from my own boundary also, right? Like putting out into the universe that if people aren't okay with me being a mom or me needing 5 minutes to nurse my child in the middle of my shift and they have to wait a few extra minutes, then they're not the people for me right now. And I'm not the chiropractor for them right now. And there's someone else in the office they can see, or, or there's a plethora of people in other offices if that's what they choose. And coming from that place of not scarcity, of not lack, of complete abundance and trusting that the right people are going to find me. My people are amazing. Like the people waiting to see me will go play with my baby. Sometimes she crawls over and they'll be laying on their table with their hands on the handrest and they get their hand held by a little one or a foot stroke from her. And it's been really wonderful. I can't say that it hasn't come without a lot of moments of me being like, oh my God, is this okay? Is this so incredibly unprofessional? Like, are they really okay with this? But they keep coming back. So I'm thinking they're okay with it. And my dad's not working right now. He's super helpful. He comes almost every single shift, and like either he'll be there just to be someone with her or he takes her for car ride. So if she's fallen asleep on the way to the office, he'll take her for a car ride so she stays napping, which I know it's not ideal for them to nap in their car seat, but like we're making it work here. And it's only 6 hours a week. It goes by so fast. But there are the odd person who's like, so when are you thinking about adding more hours? And I just kindly remind them that most women in Canada right now don't go back to work at least until a year, 18 months. And I came back at 4.5. So we're not in any rush. And I kind of say it in that like there's not really room for conversation after that. Like I'm back. You can get on my table when I'm here or not. And that's okay. And I'm not being rude. It's not that I don't want to see you. It's that she is my priority. And this is when I'm here and available to serve. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. And I love that because I think that more moms need to have like, nope, this is just how it is. Like, I'm not apologizing. I'm also not being confrontational. I'm just saying this is it,
Yeah. And I'm super grateful that you're here. And I love getting to take care of people. Like I have a really beautiful balance right now in being able to serve and do the thing that I love. And I actually think that in this new space, I love chiropractic more now. And I think it's because I've taken the pressure off of it to perform and provide for me. Like I'm really truly there because I love chiropractic and I love serving people. And this is what it looks like. And maybe that'll change and maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, tell me, because you had used the word boss babe. Tell me a little bit about like what that looked like during school. And because I hear it a lot and it's like it's a very celebrated
it is
kind of term for women,
like killing it, CEO. I feel like there was a time where I subscribed to that, like that boss babe culture that like I don't work for no man. I'm doing it all. And I think somewhere in there, I guess I'm conscious of my words. If that sets someone on fire, and if that's truly what they're passionate about, by all means, go crush it. Start your business, make 6 figures a month. Whether it's because you're a content creator or you're in the corporate world or you own your own business, like a brick and mortar, whatever that looks like, if that's your passion, amazing. But I think somewhere in that boss babe culture that I'm a woman and I can do it all, I think that we lost the celebration for the woman who wants to stay home with her family. And I think we lost the celebration of the homemaker and the caregiver and the nurturer. And I was that person all through chiropractic school. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have a 7-figure practice. I'm gonna, have these amazing hours. I'm gonna have this incredible life because I work so hard and I make all this money and I can do that. And I quickly learned that, like, there is no part of me that wants to work that many hours or see that many people to make that kind of money at the rate that would be affordable for people in my area to pay for the service that I provide. I don't think it has to necessarily look like you see 1,000 people a week and you give it all away. I think that there are lots of people who are doing it, seeing fewer people and charging more. But I think you also have to be aware of your demographics. And I think for where I'm at, like what I would have to see to have that practice is just like, that's not what I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm not willing to give up everything else about my life to be in the practice to make all the money. Not interested. That did kind of pull me into like looking at other career options, not to leave chiropractic. I love the power of the chiropractic adjustment and I love nervous system centered care. But to look at additional income streams. What do they say? Like the average billionaire has at least 7 income streams. And I was like, why am I only limiting myself to one? So I did jump into the online business world. To like network marketing, affiliate marketing. And I also quickly realized that there are a lot of people who make it look really easy. And it's also a lot of work. And you have to show up every single day and tell people like what it is you do and share your product and share why it matters and share how it's changing lives. And I'm sure that I can have my 5 and 6 figure months at some point. And then it comes back to, I'm not currently willing to put that amount of effort and time into doing all this stuff on my computer or my phone or just not being present with my daughter.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that because I have in a similar way tried different like online businesses, but at this point with my kids being the priority, I haven't been able to give it the time that it deserves in order for it to fully flourish.
Yes, I totally get that. And like,
yeah.
I'm grateful for the organization that I joined with. I think that it has an incredible training platform. Like they literally step by step teach you how to have a successful business. And there's a lot of focus on using social media and social platforms. One second, I hear someone on the stairs. I will be right back. Yeah, they do a great job of like showing you how to do it all and utilizing social platforms, ads, automation, so that a lot of things can run in the background for you so that, you can be the present mom. And I also learned that for those things to really work for you, you still have to be putting in a certain amount of time and effort to showing up regularly and consistently so that, when your ad does show up for all of your ideal clients, they come to your page and learn something about you and want to buy from you. And so, when I'm picking someone up off the stairs 741 times a day, maybe the time isn't there to put that effort in right now. And I came to peace. I made peace with that, and that's okay.
Yeah. And it's funny because even if you have a certain intention, I've learned that my kids or life will show me. So it's like I'll be leaning too much into work and then there'll be something comes up where I have to fully devote my time to my kids. And then And then I'm like, oh no, but now my career is slacking. So I go back and then something happens with my kids. And then, so it's like a constant, for me, it's been like a constant back and forth. And I'm like, kids work, like, yeah.
I think it
And
was in the book. I think it was in the book The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist. She talked a lot about that, like about how when she was at work, she would constantly be thinking about her kids, and when she was with her kids, she would constantly be thinking about work, and just the
right.
result was always feeling busy, never feeling like anything got done. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah, it's interesting because I read actually someone told me about, because I was struggling with something similar, like it's hard to be present with my kids when I'm constantly thinking about my future and work and this, and then it's hard to be present in my job when I'm constantly feeling guilty for being away. Like it's so difficult. But someone had told me, like, it's okay to put things in a box. Like, it's okay when you're with your kids to put work in a box and just let yourself not think about it. And it's okay when you're at work to it's harder to put your kids in a box, I think, but, to let them know they're in good hands currently and focus on like the task at hand. So I had to start utilizing that. It's helped a little bit, but, you know.
I think too, like when we consider that often what we're doing for work is with the intention of being able to provide a life for our kids that
Right.
maybe was better than what we had ourselves, or maybe was what we had ourselves, but to be able to provide for them, that
Yeah.
then you're like, well, I am still thinking of you, I am still putting you first, I'm just putting some longer term needs at the
Right.
forefront than our short term current needs, which that balance is also hard.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think that's kind of what it ends up being is a balance of how, and we kind of talked about this with self-care too, like how do we balance all of the needs and everyone's needs? And it's almost similar with the thought of work, because I think about it and say, okay, like there's in order to keep living, not in squalor,
Yeah.
there has to be some way that money is coming into us, and unless you're like a trust fund baby where you're set for life, and congratulations to those who are,
Yeah. Amazing.
and
Nothing
then
wrong with that.
nothing wrong with that, and then that lets you be kind of like, full-time parent where you could do that all the time, and then for me, I also feel like I think someone crawled over there. See mom's eyes get bright. But there's also, I feel like I still, and especially as she's gotten closer to a year, I feel the desire to start doing things like really like live into my purpose in life. And there's also an element of showing her how I show up in the world with my gifts and my talents and all of that. And so it's kind of like I also have this, like even doing this, right? It takes a little bit of time and some effort and all of that. And yet I felt like it was really important, like there was a message that needed to be shared. And so we started this, and so there's this balance of like in me being my best self, however that looks, I also support, her as well, like for my daughter. And so it's an interesting balance.
It's the like my favorite quote, that Marianne Williamson quote. Everyone always focuses on the part about your greatest fear is not your success. Anyway, the end of the quote, she talks about when you stand in your power, you give others permission to do the same. And so it's that same concept, right? When you honor your needs and when you give your gifts to the world and when you're fully present in your purpose, you're showing your daughter or your son, whoever it is, you're giving them permission to do the same, right? In a world where we aren't always celebrated for our gifts. To be able to see like, hey, yeah, like my mom does do all these things. She does put her own needs first. She does show up for what brings her passion, and she does do the things that light her up. And Andrea, I think it's neat that you mentioned, like, as you're approaching that 1 year mark, because I felt the same thing through month 11. Each day and each week, it's like I could feel the veil of my hormones shifting and changing again. Like every day I felt like, I have a little less brain fog today. And I didn't have any trouble remembering words today. And not one time today was I in the middle of a sentence and did I go, it's gone. The whole thought is gone. Mid-sentence.
It evaporated. The butterfly
Nothing left.
flapped its wings and everything is gone.
Yeah, like that started to change so much. And each day that I felt more whole and more myself again, I felt more called to show up in different ways and more called to start creating again and to serve more and to do those things. She's laying on a dog bed, just kicking her feet. It's so sweet. Just to do those things that bring me joy and passion and allow me to show up in other capacities than mom, which is, it's neat. It's neat.
Mm-hmm. Right. And to still have the balance of like, you know, like our kids are still like, we get to find a way that works.
Yeah.
You know, where everyone is taken care of and everyone is supported. And you know, it is interesting because when she was born, I had told, so when I say she, my daughter, when she was born, I had told Chantal, I had said, you know, like I honestly, it was like my life prior to her turned black and white. And it was just like, I could barely remember who I had been prior. Like it just,
I felt the same.
like it was like all of a sudden everything with her was color and everything else had gone black and white. And I'm like, I don't even really remember my life. Like it feels like some distant memory of some story someone told me about someone else.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's exactly how I feel too. It's bizarre. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It takes that concept of lifetimes. And I feel like so often when people are like in a past life, they're referring to something quite esoteric and metaphysical. And I'm like, well, like 2 years ago feels like a past life. And 10 years ago feels like many past lives ago already. Like I've lived like a cat, I think. Like 9 lives in this lifetime.
Right. And it is interesting because the closer I get to a year, probably like starting around 9 months, like 6 months, I still felt pretty like deep in it. But like around 9 months, all of a sudden it was like, oh, I actually remember myself like from before. Oh, she still is there. And it was kind of like, okay, I'm starting to feel like I have the interest and drive to begin to do other things and little projects and, you know, and
it's neat to see how we then navigate integrating the old parts of self with the new parts of self, and then what does that look like? What does old Caitlin mixed with mom Caitlin look like? And how does she show up, and who is she?
Right. I don't know. Very glittery blob. I don't know.
Lots of glittering. Lots of blobbing. I like that. A glittery blob.
Okay, so I diverged for a second, but I'll tell you where the blob part came from, why that's in my head. So when I was in junior high, okay, I had this friend and she had these like amazing glitter glue pens. And she would make this like most like artistic, she would write poetry and then like design it all with like glitter glue and pens, and like it was so beautiful. And I would try and do art and then I would get bored with it because I'm like, okay, what's in here like in my head is not translating at all. And then I would just smear it everywhere and I'm like, it's the blob.
I love it. I love it.
That's where it comes from. No?
That's funny.
But okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. Anyways, But that's it's no reference to appearance or anything like that.
Oh, well, I also feel like a blob many days. That's fine.
So it's like all these beautiful things all mixed together, and it's hard to tell what's what.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. So, one of our other questions was like, you've really talked about how easy this transition was for you and how you were able to like make the decision confidently. But what would you say to some women who are scared to make this sort of transition in their career after
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's a lot easier said than done, but
Right.
pulling ourselves out of our logic brain and out of the should do mindset and really tapping into our heart center and that soul purpose and what really feels right, and honoring what feels right, even when it's absolutely terrifying. Because like I can say that it was really easy for me to hold the boundary and to know like this is what I'm willing to do. And a lot of that for me came from um, many years as a people pleaser and having absolutely crap boundaries, and recognizing that my baby was starting to learn epigenetically through me. I mean, arguably before conception, but certainly since conception. And if I wasn't willing to have strong boundaries and to honor my needs through pregnancy, that I was teaching this future baby from the get-go that their needs don't matter. And so when I framed everything from that perspective in my head of prioritizing needs and having boundaries and desiring to grow this life in the least stressful, least cortisol ridden, most peaceful, most loving, most harmonious space, a lot of decisions became really easy.
Yeah.
They weren't always logical. They weren't always the financially best decisions. And I also really leaned in and trusted that God, the universe, whatever word resonates with you, always has your back and always provides. And that if I continue to lean into what felt right, that we would be taken care of no matter what. And so I think one of the scariest parts of maybe stepping away, probably the scariest part of stepping away, is a financial aspect. And I think for women, the idea of you spent all this time growing whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're a chiropractor or a professional of another sort, or you've taken all this time to grow your level of seniority within your company, and that stepping away is going to mean starting over, and that is terrifying. And maybe it is, but we are always taken care of. And if what feels right is to step away and to be fully present as a mom, and if that's where our heart is called, we're going to be okay. There just is no other option.
I love that.
Okay, so Caitlin, I'm super curious because I have seen online, there's been a lot of back and forth lately with like always the extremes, right? Like the feminism means, the career and the financial independence, and I can do anything a man can do, and like the push and all of that. And then there's the other extreme of like, forget about feminism. That's ridiculous. Sorry, battery's running low. Okay. And, I'm going to stay at home and make sourdough bread and have chickens and cows and wander in fields of wildflowers. And that's what it is to be feminine.
Right.
And I'm so curious as to your thoughts on feminism, because even to say, like, I have gotten into it with someone. It was actually really ridiculous because she asked me, for a prematurely born baby, what's the best thing I can do for him? I was like, stay at home and breastfeed, assuming you have the health to do it. That's the best thing you can do for him. Like, you're not like, she didn't ask me what's the best thing for me. She's like, what's the best thing for my baby? And she got really offended. Like, how dare you suggest I not go back to my job? And you're making a lot of assumptions. And I'm going, okay, you asked me what I think is best for him.
Yeah, and I
That's
answered.
it. That's all. And so it's, I feel like it's so easy to butt up against this idea of feminism because it's been made to look only one way. And I'm so curious about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that there's a really big difference with feminism and femininity. And I think that when we look at things from an energetic, if you will, perspective, like the feminine energy and the masculine energy, I think the feminine energy leans towards more being soft and being a nurturer and being a provider and being a caregiver and being the mom and being the listener. And the masculine energy is more action driven and speaking and being the protector provider. And I think that feminism is entirely different from femininity and masculinity. And I think that the feminism movement, I think, has been largely derailed in a lot of ways, because I think a lot of women are being made wrong if they choose to stay home, if they choose to be the caregiver or the provider or the like nurturer of the family. Sorry. I think that it's kind of being made to seem like they are taking away from the feminism movement if they don't return to work. But I think what feminism is at its core, or should be, is that a woman can decide for herself what she wants to do. That I don't need someone to tell me I have to go back to work, and I don't need someone to tell me I have to stay home in the kitchen. That me as a woman, I am fully capable of deciding if I want to be at home or if I want to be in the workforce. And I think that decision should be honored and respected no matter what it is, and especially when it might not be the same thing that you would choose for yourself. Um, I think that one of the biggest things we as women can do is support and uplift each other, regardless of difference of opinion and different decisions. Yeah.
I love that. And that's definitely one of our mission statements with the podcast here, is like really rising together, like letting go of the competitiveness and the, I'm
Like,
right,
you're
you're
right,
wrong.
you're wrong, or like my way's
Yeah.
right, no, my way's right.
Right. And just welcoming, like welcoming everyone, like creating support,
Yeah.
like support rather than criticism.
I also think so, and I the algorithms show us more of what we look at, right? Like, so I would say I see more and more of this type of content when I'm, scrolling my socials, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's more of this content out there. It just is what I'm seeing. But I think that a lot of women have had to step into their more masculine energy, more masculine spirit, more masculine roles, out of necessity, not out of desire necessarily. That they've had to step up in different ways. I think that when a woman feels safe and secure, that she is able to embody that softer side, and to be more nurturing and caregiving and my words are now being lost. But so often we have to do it all, whether that's because of past traumas or the relationships we're in or financial necessity. when you have to do it all, it's really, that is a more masculine trait, right? Like when you have to show up and be the protector, provider, and the nurturer, caregiver. When you're stuck in your sympathetic nervous system and you're in that place of fight, flight, freeze, there's not a lot of space to just embody being feminine. So I think that there is something to working through our own stuff, working through our traumas, generational traumas, healing, finding the right partner, being able to have good, open, honest communication with your partner, having a partner who does provide and protect so that you as a woman can feel safe and secure. And that doesn't mean that, you know, only he goes to work. That's not what I'm saying. But to be able to have a dynamic where you feel like you can let your guard down and lean into that parasympathetic nervous system and be in rest, digest, and heal, and not be stuck in fight, flight, freeze, cortisol, and really embody the essence of who you are as a woman. It's a really beautiful thing, and it's not something that all women have right now. So it's something I wish for all women. And then I think from that space of feeling safe and secure, you'd really get a better idea of how many women want to be the boss babe versus how many women feel like a boss babe when they stay home with their babies. It's interesting. It'd be interesting research if one could do that study.
Right. And what I do love about the time that we live in, which was different than the time that our mothers lived in, is we do have the opportunity to do work from home and work online and stuff like that. So we have much more possibility to still, you know, if we want to, share our gifts in that way or contribute financially that way, or however it looks, and have more flexibility and time to still be with our children. And I'm going, that's a cool opportunity that exists for us right now.
I think that's something we can be really grateful to technology for, because whether it's network marketing or affiliate marketing, or it's a digital course, or I see people now, like if you're a psychologist, you can do telehealth, or like counselors telehealth. If you want to make a course, if you want to do some kind of coaching, like there's so many avenues that we can provide and that we can have services that we offer to others where we are generating an income as well, where there's that energy exchange for the service and the receiving, that we can do via the internet. And that gives us time freedom, because, you know, you can work whatever hours work for you. You want to work during your child's nap or after bedtime, or you want to wake up first thing in the morning, or if they're school aged and are in school, or they're in daycare, or you have some kind of childcare, you can work in pockets of time, and you can have things running for you online all the time, which is really, really, really neat. And I've seen some people who are, I think that sometimes when we think of using the online world to generate income, we think of, like from our growing up, you know, candlelight or party light, whatever it was called, and Tupperware. And like, how much could someone really have been making, you know, selling Tupperware or selling candles? But I think that there's a lot of opportunity now to make really meaningful income via the online space, to where you can provide financially for your family, whether it's that you're a second income provider or you're a sole income provider. And you can do that with time and location freedom as well, which is, you're right, like an incredible opportunity.
Yeah. So for people who are watching and listening, how can they find you and support you and engage with you further?
Yeah, easily the best way to engage with me, to connect with me, is through Instagram. I'll get you guys to link my handle, but it's at Dr. Caitlin Reimer. 100% the easiest way to connect.
Okay, perfect. And that's where people can find out too about your online business. Yes.
There's a link in my bio. My mom and I are funny. I feel like, you've seen enough things that when we say sillies, we'll say like, click to follow my channel, subscribe, link in bio. But yes, my link is in my bio, and you can find and connect with me on Instagram. I am very responsive to DMs. I scroll way more than I probably should. And I love to talk to people. So send me a message.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Do you have anything to add, Chantal, before we close?
No, it was so nice hearing from you and learning from you. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure. I love that you were friendly to me having my baby playing on the floor, and I'm sure everyone could hear her in the background. But to me, like, that's motherhood. That's the Hen House.
Yeah.
I'm in it.
Well, and there's something. So Dr. Rossi, she would always say that when women get together, there's this. And Caitlin and I both did our chiropractic internship with Dr. Susan Rossi in Atlanta, and was a wonderful teacher and has passed at this point in time. But she would say that when multiple women get together, you have this spiral of energy that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Similar to how when you put hens in a hen house, they start talking and talking, and everything gets louder and more excited. So
that's funny.
So that's part of the inspiration behind this. So, and I do feel like we had some great expansion through conversation today. So super excited and grateful for you both. So yes, thank you for joining, Caitlin, and kind of sharing your experience. I really loved hearing that. So yes, and thank you to all of our listeners as well. I don't want to forget about all of you who are viewing and listening after the fact either. So we are also grateful for you, and super excited to have this be our first episode of season 2. So